Hello, everyone. I'm Fairuz Khan, and I'm the founder of Fairuz Education Services. Today, I'm back after a long time. I'm going to do something very important, something very special. But first of all, let me wish a very happy Victory Day to everyone. As I'm a Bangladeshi, today is the 50th Victory Day of our country. Yeah. So we'll start something very important, something that a lot of student, faces problem with, and I really want to emphasize on things that will be required for exams because we have received a lot of requests from students all around the world about what they want in terms of content, and we are really focusing on that. So let's start without any further delay. Um, so, usually, what I have seen, because I've been teaching business studies for a very long time, so whenever I ask students to write an answer, a business studies answer, of course, yes, they read the question. And by reading the question, usually what I see, they have a set structure. Okay. They really don't care about what the question is trying to ask them. What they do is they have a set structure, and usually you will find students, they will start the answer by defining the concept which is correct, and then straight away they will jump into advantages, they will go to disadvantages, and at most they will support the answer with an example. Okay. Now, there's nothing wrong with the format, but we usually often we have to see the requirement of the question. What is the question trying to ask? What do they want? Okay. So at first, you really need to read the instructions. You need to read the question. For every question, we cannot have the set pattern. We just cannot. Okay. And this is a big problem. Usually in O levels, yes, you can get away with it, but for A levels, you cannot. Because A levels is very specific, A levels is a very advanced level, and you do have to keep in mind, about the requirement of the question. So, for example, now, um, if we just give me a minute, I'm trying to set my screen. Okay, yeah. So, for example, I have a paper three question paper of A2, and generally it looks like this. Okay, and if you look at the question, so this is section A. If you look at the question, um, again, just give me a minute. So, if you look at the question, you will see that there are five questions here. And please look at the bold letters. Okay. So you have analyze, you have refer, you have calculate, recommend, refer, advise, calculate, evaluate. Okay. If we go to the next section, section B, because paper three of A2 has five questions in section A, and you have to choose one question from two questions. And you'll see again, you have evaluate. So these keywords or command words are very important. They can change the whole question. Okay, they can change the requirement of the whole question. So we really need to focus on these command words because these command words have different meanings. Each of them comes with a different set of meaning. Each of them comes with its own requirement. Each of them comes with their own need. So we really need to understand what analyze means. We really need to know what calculate or assess or recommend mean, or what advise mean, right? Basing on that, we will read the question, understand the case, and then answer. Okay, that's how it's going to be. So if you take out any question paper from O levels, A levels, AS, A2, whatever it is, you will find these words, these keywords. And it's pertinent, it's important that we read this question. We understand these keywords properly. Nowadays, if you open your, books, A levels, and whether it's Edexcel or Cambridge or O levels book, right at the top, you have the meaning of these keywords or command words, or even at the end. So I would advise you to go back and have a look at it. Okay. Um, so moving forward, usually when you look at these words, analyze, evaluate, recommend, describe, explain, justify, to what extent, assess, compare, what happens is students feel that it has the same meaning. All the words, all the command words mean the same. They sound the same, or they probably look the same. But if you go to cambridgedictionary.com, or if you pop out a dictionary and check the meaning, they have different meanings. They have different requirements. They want something different. Each of them wants something different. Okay? So the way you answer questions will also vary, will also depend on these command words. And that's why I've seen a lot of A level students are not getting the right grades. Okay. They feel, they think, they assume that, okay, they have written down everything according to the case, but these simple small things matter when it comes to A levels, okay, or answering questions in business studies. So students are confused, students are stressed out. If you look at this picture in blue dress, it looks the same, but it's not the same, right? One girl is a bit tall, one girl has a tattoo. So similarly, these keywords, they look the same, or they probably may sound the same. Again, because English is tricky, but if you look at the exact meaning, they are very, very different. Okay, so let's have a look at our first command word. And our first command word is analyze. Okay, we have an example question. So, a small business that competes in a market where demand is price elastic. Price elastic means the price may go up, the price may go down. It's not a necessary good, it's a luxury good. And this business is trying to introduce a system of quality insurance. Analyze how quality assurance might improve its competitiveness. Okay, analyze. It's not evaluate, it's not assess, it's not describe, it's analyze. So we need to understand that. We've understood the question. It's a small business whose product is probably price elastic product or service. They want to introduce quality assurance. So the question is, analyze what will happen in terms of its competitiveness if they introduce quality assurance in the organization, right? Now, analyze means breaking down the content of a topic or an issue. Okay, you have something, you break them down into different parts and you look at it with a magnifying glass. Okay, you look at different elements and you provide an in-depth account. So analyze means you have to look at different sections of the discussion or of the problem. That is analyze. Okay, breaking down contents, looking at different parts, looking at different sections, looking at different elements. For example, if you want to answer this question um, just in brief, if you want to answer this question, um, you know, if you introduce quality assurance, you'll have fewer errors. Yes, and that will lead to lower cost. When you make less errors, that will lead you to lower cost. And lower cost is very important for smaller business. Okay. And why do people buy your product or service? Because of better quality. Okay. And also, on the other hand, there is this another part where, a small business cannot depend on economies of scale because, of course, a small business like us, or if you have a small business, you'll produce products in a limited quantity, so you will not be able to enjoy economies of scale. So you can depend on quality assurance. Okay, your price may be a bit high, but if the quality is really really good, people will buy your product and services. I know a lot of you buys product or services depending on the quality, right? Apple products are very expensive, but why do people buy it, right? Because of its quality. So see how they have looked at different parts of the answer. They've looked at, okay, of course, when you have quality assurance, you have fewer errors. When you have quality assurance, people will buy it no matter what, because they will come for quality. Okay, so that's that. So analyze, looking at different parts, constituents, elements, and analyzing it. Okay, providing in-depth explanation on different parts and different section. Okay, you analyze different situation, perspectives, opinion. So that's analyze. If you have any questions, you can um, you know um, put down your comments below. I will take your questions and I will answer each and every one of them. Okay, and then calculate is more simple. Usually calculate is required when there is a mathematical problem. Okay, and you will get mathematical problem in your O levels, you will get it in AS, especially in paper 2. Okay, and there are a lot of calculations in paper 3 as well, if I'm not mistaken. So let's say you have an example question. Based on the data in table 2, calculate the contribution per unit. So we need to calculate contribution per unit. So calculate means you need to work out the value of something. You need to calculate. You need to find mathematical solutions to a certain problem. You will have a formula. For example, in this case, you need to find out the number of units, total revenue by selling price. Now when you have a mathematical problem, I would suggest you to write the formula first. Okay, contribution per unit or revenue, sales, break even point, whatever it is, stick the formula in first and then have the steps. Do not skip any steps. I would advise you, I would highly recommend you to include all the steps. Okay, so there you go. So calculate, you will get this word when you need to solve a mathematical problem, usually. Okay, so that's that. Um, going to the next one. Going to the next one, we have describe. Describe is very common right from our childhood. We've been looking at describe, right? So just give me a minute. Yeah. So, for example, describe the trend in sales of luxury goods in China as shown in the data shown in figure 1. So, you need to describe the trend. Probably there was a figure, and it's all these questions are taken from a specimen. So, you have to describe the trend that has been shown in the graph. And what does describe mean? Describe means to describe something, to give a description of something. Okay, like describe this T-shirt. Okay, and what you do when you describe is you explain the main features of something. You set out the characteristics. You take out some features. You describe the parts of it, how it looked like, what it happens. In this case, the answer would be, some characteristics of the trend include sales growth is always positive or negative, or it was rising. So you're describing the trend of the graph, and that's what they wanted in the question. So you're saying that yes, the trend was positive, it was rising, it went up, then it came down. Okay, there were peaks, there were troughs, there were fluctuations. So you're describing each part. Okay, what happened? You're reporting the main features and characteristics of it. Okay, so that's describe, giving description of something. You're not analyzing. You're not calculating. See, it's different. You're describing, you're reporting, explaining the main features, setting out the characteristics of something. Okay? After that, we have again something that's very common in A levels or O levels. You have evaluate. So we have a question here. We have a question from 2011 to 2013. Sainsbury's gearing rose from 35.9% to 40.1%, and its current ratio increased from 0.55 to 0.61. Evaluate the possible implications. Evaluate the possible implications of these changes for Sainsbury's during a period of difficult market conditions. So the question is evaluate the possible implications during difficult market conditions. So, what does evaluate mean? Evaluate means measure, judge. Okay, that's what evaluate means, right? What's the overall worth of something? Weigh up your opinion, evaluate. Okay, you look at different things and you judge, evaluate, discussing the importance of something. Yeah, okay, so that's that. So, whenever there's a question with this particular keyword evaluate, what you do is you measure, you weigh, discuss the important. Okay, you weigh up your options and look at it. In this case, we do have a sample answer. In this case, see, they've talked about gearing ratio. They said that gearing ratio is still low. It's below 50%, so there's nothing to worry about. Okay. And they have explained a little bit about gearing ratio, what it means. Okay. And then they've talked about, again, interest rate, different point of view, evaluate. They're trying to look at different things and measure the implication. That's what the question is. Okay. However, interest rates are low, which lowers the cost of borrowing. And especially when you borrow at a large amount, in a large amount, the interest rates will be low. Okay. Um, and that's how they evaluate it. They look at different things and they measure, they evaluate, they weigh, they look at the overall implication. They will judge between two, three things. Okay. So, yeah. And again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to comment down in the comment section. Okay, great. Let's go ahead. The session is going really, really good. Explain. Again, explain is a very common command word or keyword. So, explain means we have a question. Explain the factors that might influence the price at which Morgan sells its cars. So, the question is explain the factor. What factor may is important here or may intrude here? They want to know that factor and you have to explain that factor, okay, how it plays an important role. So explain means give clear reasoning of something, give clear reasons of something using examples, theory behind the question. You know, sometimes, most of the times, often we use this word. Okay, explain to me. So explaining means you're justifying something. You're giving reasons of something. Okay, you are unleashing or unpacking complex theories. You're explaining what something means. Okay, and here a possible answer could be, one factor that may influence is one factor is the price of cars made by competitor rivals to Morgan. So one factor that depends in terms of price is what other competitors charge. And then you can explain that what it means, okay? Because you just can't state. Explain means you have to unpack, unleash, make things easy, okay? So that's that. Explaining. Keep that in mind. Next is justify. So let's say we have a question. Under Justin King, Sainsbury's changed its strategy. Okay, so they had probably a new CEO, a new director, and when that new director came in, they changed the strategy. Of a business needs to be determined mainly by what is happening in the external environment. So when this new CEO came in, they changed his strategy based on what based on the external environment. Okay, justify your answer. Justify means give reasons of the valid or of a view. Justify. Okay, you support this point of view, or we have this point of view. Justify. Give reasons. Validate. Okay, and it may involve again discussing different things, looking at different alternative views, actions, okay? Present some options, and they will have positives and negatives, okay? So that is justification. Give me justification or justify something, right? And in this case, the sample answer um, could be you may talk about pest, you may talk about opportunities, threats, and so on, right? um, yeah, so that is one answer. Justify, and justify is very very common, right? So, yes, so here you can talk about the opportunities, the threats, the external environment. You can analyze, uh, you can talk about the good things, the bad things, right? So that is justify. Next up, this is quite an interesting one. To what extent, and I also teach IELTS, and in essays, we have this term always coming up, to what extent. So, what does to what extent means? To what extent, let's have a look at the question first. To what extent do you think the performance of Nissan's workforce has been the main factor of influencing its decision to increase car production at the Sunderland factory in the UK? So, to what extent, how much do you think that Nissan's workforce was a main factor in increasing the production? To what extent? To what extent means by how much or by how many? How much do you agree or disagree? And here you can, if you have a concept or if you have a situation here, in this case, the situation is uh, increase in car production at the Sunderland factory. So you could say, yes, I agree. These things were dependent on the workforce, but however, I think these things were not dependent on the workforce, and we also need to look at other factors that are important in terms of increasing the car production at Sunderland. So to what extent means by how much? Okay, and you have to give reasons for and against, and then you can come to a conclusion with justification. So by how much or by how many? In this case, it is possible that you may not agree completely, you may agree partially, right? I agree this section or this part of the discussion or argument, and probably there are some factors that needs to be taken into account. Okay, so that's that. Um, so an example of answers given. The data provides some factors which relate to employee performance, and from which arguments can be constructed for this as the main factor. Example: productivity. This factor should be set against others outside of workforce performance. See, they've talked about workforce, and then they've talked about other things as well that are dependent. Okay, so it's not it is not just uh, you know agreeing to something. It is by how much. You may disagree to something, and you can talk about that as well, that I agree to most of the parts or to this part of the argument, but then there are other factors, okay, that are important, right? So there we go. So yeah, we are almost near to the end. uh, it's very funny. My laptop also doesn't have charge, 6%. See. Let's take this leap and see if I can finish it. Before the charge goes down. But then again, there are simple command words too, which are straightforward, which are simpler, straightforward. We want to talk about them as well. Advise, recommend. I think it's simple. Advise means They want your advice, they want your recommendation, um, they want your opinion, ideas of something, an argument, a problem, or you may give a solution to something, advice, recommend. Give me an advice. Okay, what should that person do in a certain or particular situation, right? So you have to advise, present key points, give different ideas, and you also you can talk about different strengths and weaknesses, make a choice from something. Okay, that is an advice. An example is recommend which is the better option for Sonia to take. Recommend which option, option A, option B. You could say option A, but again, listen to this very carefully. If you choose a specific option, give reasons why. I've chosen option A because this reason. That is advise. Okay? So advise or recommend. Then we have give, identify, list, state. A question would be identify two drawbacks to Krispy Kreme of using responsibly sourced ingredients. Okay? Identify, list, or state means you do not have to explain. I have seen students explaining when they don't have time. Don't do that, because in the exam hall, you will not have enough time. So, what you need to do is just state what are the two drawbacks, this and this. Done. Two words, probably there'll be two or three words. That's it. If they tell you identify and explain, identify and describe, identify and analyze, that's a different story altogether. But when they talk about identify, list, state, you just have to state the mention the points only. And you will get this kind of question in paper one, A levels. Okay, Cambridge. Then comes compare. It's very easy. You compare between two different things. Compare, explain the similarities and differences between. Compare. Okay. We have a question. Compare between market share and market segmentation. Compare. Compare. Okay, what is market share? Market share is this. Market segmentation is this. Again, they have this. They have that. Okay. So you compare two different things. Straightforward. And then last but not the least, you have assess. Assess may be a bit complicated. Assess means you look at several options and weigh them up. It is similar to evaluate. You look at different options, okay, and then you examine and assess, okay, and make judgments. Okay, so that is assess and come to a certain conclusion about their about their effectiveness, productivity, or validity, right? So that's that. Today we have come to the end of the class. Thank you so much for being with us. Please do not hesitate to subscribe our channel, or press the like button, or subscribing to our page on Facebook, because we have lots of free content on our channel and we want you to use them, right? So that's that. Thank you very much. I'm done for today. Today is a victory day. It was my off day and I wanted to do this for a very long time. Today I got the whole house to myself. My families are out, and I took this opportunity to do a wonderful session on command words A levels. Great. If you have any questions, put it down below and we'll take it. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one.